Hello, thank you for watching my channel today. My name is Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. And the first thing I have to say is I got a haircut, yay! My hair had got so long for me. I normally have my hair quite short and it just got so long and it's all gone and I'm really happy. So that's my first obvious announcement. So yeah, the good times that we can actually get our haircut again. That's awesome. So today I am doing the Moody Reader book tag, which I saw Heather do and I really wanted to do it. And I have been very negligent and I haven't looked up who created the tag, so I will put it across the bottom of the screen because credit where credit's due. So the questions are all about like moods and reading. And I thought they were really cool questions. So the first question is, do you consider yourself to be a mood reader? And I would definitely say yes, but I get in my own way about doing it. So I really like thinking, this is how I'm feeling at the moment, and so this is the kind of book that I need to read. But I keep setting myself like goals and challenges and TBRs and all that kind of stuff, which often kind of prevents me from being the mood reader that I want to be. So sometimes when I'm finding things tough, I really have to be a mood reader. Like when I made that video a couple of weeks ago or a few weeks ago about when I did all the craft stuff and all that kind of stuff because I was struggling. I just knew that I had to read something that I felt would help, and I picked the Midnight Library and read it straight away because I knew that's what I needed, that kind of book. And then other times I can be in the mood for a few different things and just be more kind of easygoing about it. But yeah, I definitely consider myself to be someone who needs to mood read but doesn't mood read enough. Question number 2, which is kind of similar. Do you set TBR lists and do you stick to them? Okay, so my personality type, I really like having like lists and like goals and like ticking things off lists and stuff. So that means that I often sign up for reading challenges or readathons or buddy reads, or like recently I've done kind of reading a whole shelf in a month, voting for my TBR on Instagram. And I really like doing that kind of stuff because it makes me read things that I wouldn't have read for ages, which I'm also doing that at the moment. But I also find it puts me in a bit of a slump sometimes because excuse me, I might think like, oh, I really, really want to read some YA, or I really want to read so and so, but I've committed to doing this, that, or the other. So I feel like I need to do less TBRs, but I do still like it. So I need to just have the right balance, I think. And the other thing is, like, for instance, if I'm like I think this is the 3rd year in a row, I'm doing the Reading Women Challenge. And that makes me read outside my comfort zone. Well, not outside my comfort zone, outside what I'd normally read. And so, like, it makes you read more diversely. And so that's only a good thing in my book. So, like, but that's a year-long challenge. So it's much less intense than if you're doing, like, a readathon for a month or something like that. So I think, again, it's just all about balance for me. Like, I need to get the right balance of TBRs versus mood reading and spontaneous choices. So question number 3, do books affect you emotionally? Does the mood of a book rub off on you? Yes, definitely. So sometimes if a book's like just okay, then it won't. But if it's like a powerful book, it does. Like sometimes books have a negative impact like that. Like sometimes I can't think of a... Okay, yeah, I can think of an example. So I started reading Madame Bovary because I got it in Clothbound Classic and I absolutely hated it. And it was making me feel really down and really depressed. So, like, I had to DNF it because I just didn't want to feel like that. So sometimes books can make you feel like that, or sometimes books can make me feel anxious, which obviously I don't like. But they're kind of, when it happens in a good way, it's obviously like when a book makes me feel really uplifted or really inspired or like really happy. Like at the moment I'm listening to More Myself by Alicia Keys, which is her memoir, and it's such a powerful, uplifting, inspiring book that I absolutely recommend it 100%. And she reads it herself, and that book is definitely affected me emotionally, but in a very positive way. It's just so inspiring, and she is amazing. And so yes, so books do affect me, and again, balance again, it can be positively or negatively. Most of the time obviously it's positive, because like I have no idea what I'd do if I didn't have books in my life. Like books to me are everything, and books are, you know, like complete escapism and learning and empathizing and trying on other people's shoes, and you know, all of those kind of things. Like I would never ever be without them, but you have to pick the right book for the time, is what I think I mean. Right, question 4. When you're feeling sad, what do you read or do you not read when sad? Yes, I do read when I'm sad, definitely, because it helps. I would say when I'm in a struggling kind of mood, I tend to read something like YA or romance or middle grade, because it just gives me that uplift and escapism that I need. So like if I read a series like the Morrigan Crow Nevermore series, I know I'm going to get so much escapism and joy out of that. Or if I read like I really love YA, that's going to inspire me, because I think that they're set at a time of life where they're trying to inspire young people, and so that I find those really, really good. Or if I'm feeling like, you know, when sometimes you can feel kind of sad, but you don't feel, it doesn't feel like in a bad way, like if you've had a good cry at a film or something, and it feels like that kind of feels nice. So sometimes I might read something that's like a tearjerker or something, but I'd say generally speaking, I'd go for like romance, YA or middle grade if I'm feeling sad. Something comforting. Number 5, most often do you use reading to escape, to learn, or to critically reflect? I would say all 3. So definitely escapism, like I've just said, absolutely. To learn, yes. So for me, like I'm a person who loves to learn. I've always loved learning, and I never want to stop learning. And if I'm interested in a topic, then it doesn't have to be non-fiction. You know, if I read about a book set in another country or something, I can learn stuff about that country or that time period and stuff like that. And I think that obviously non-fiction as well, but I think that is so important, because one thing that I think, and this is like evidence-based as well, one thing that books do is they increase our empathy. So like without books, I wouldn't have read about, you know, so many different experiences that I haven't had myself, and it makes you so much more understanding of other people's circumstances. If you read a book about like, you know, you might read a book about immigration or racism or another culture, or about a trans person, or someone who's asexual, or someone who's non-binary, or someone, you know, there's so many different walks of life that I haven't experienced myself, that I feel like I learn about, and therefore have more knowledge, more understanding, and more allyship as well. And I think that all of those things are so important. Like a lot of the conflict and the bad things that happen in the world are because people don't ever see things from other people's point of view, and they don't empathize with what other people are going through. And if they had, you know, if their minds were opened and they understood more, there would be less in the way of, you know, all the bad stuff that happens. And so I think that learning is like an essential part of books for me. And critical reflection. So I would say this is definitely not my strongest point, because when I hear other people sometimes dissect something, I think, oh yeah, oh my god, I never picked that up, or I'm so glad I heard that person explain it that way, because I didn't read it that way. And I love that. And I remember like from school, I did used to like picking apart the books. Like for instance, when we read Romeo and Juliet, we picked it apart loads, but Romeo and Juliet remains like one of my favourites. I love it. And I understand it so much because we did that, and I can still think of passages of it in my head. But what I didn't like was then writing the essays about it afterwards, because I just thought, oh, we just talked about this, now I have to write it down and get marks, which is just annoying. But yeah, so, and that's why I like buddy reads as well, because when I do buddy reads with people, then again, we discuss things in more depth and we get more out of it than if we just read it ourselves. But equally, I wouldn't want to do that with every single book. So I think it's a balance again. This should be called the balance books tag. Yes. So that's my thoughts on that one. Next one. What is a book that made you laugh out loud? So it took me a while to think about this, because books don't generally make me laugh out loud that often, and if they do, it might be like I do it once and then I forget that I've done it. But this book, definitely, this is an author that I mention all the time. This book is hilarious. This is 100 Acts of Minor Dissent by Mark Thomas. For any of you who haven't heard me talk about Mark Thomas a million times, he's a left-wing stand-up comedian and activist who I very much like. And he's a great guy, and this is what it says in the tin, 100 Acts of Minor Dissent. So he set himself a goal at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure which year, maybe like 5 years ago, that if he didn't commit 100 acts of activism over the year, he had to donate £1,000 to UKIP, which would obviously have broken him. So that was his way of motivating himself. And this, for me, like I watched this programme recently, which if you haven't seen it, it's so good, called Craftivism. It's on BBC iPlayer, and it's about how a lot of people want to do activism, but they're not the kind of person who feels comfortable like standing in a protest or shouting out slogans and that kind of stuff, and they want to do activism in a different way. And this is kind of like that, but he is really brave. Like, he does stuff that I wouldn't have the guts to do, but his acts are always funny, but then they have more of an impact because they have that comedic edge. They make people interested and laugh, and then people think about it, and he does get stuff done big time. But like, there's loads of pictures in here, and even when I was like looking through it, it was just making me laugh out loud. So like, he was trying to get banned from Tesco's. This is like kind of an ongoing thing, and he's like, there's like a picture of him saying, like, he's holding this sign saying warning activist in the bagging area. And like, what else is, I'm just trying to find something, like flicking through. He just changed some of the little signs on Tesco's, so like CCTV blind spot, buy two for the price of 4, buy 1 get nothing, and then there's just like so any brands which he felt were unethical, he made these like stickers that you could stick on in their shop. So the bastard trade, profit not people, and pissing on the poor. So you could like get these stickers, and then if you like any companies which you found were unethical companies, you could kind of stick them inside the store, and take photos of them and then put them on social media. And yeah, this one you could put on the tubes: Daily Mail free zone. Please show consideration for fellow passengers by not reading or leaving copies of the Daily Mail newspaper in this coach. I could put that in my office at work, because whenever someone brings the Daily Mail in to show me an article, I tell them I'm not looking at it because it's from the Daily Mail. And then, yeah, so these are all the people who stuck them in the trains and like tagged on social media and stuff. So I probably haven't found like the most the most funny pictures in here, but it is just such a funny book. Yeah, oh yeah, so this is some pictures of like the bastard trade stickers that they've put on like McDonald's, Tesco's, Coca-Cola, Starbucks, Pepsi. Yeah, so it's like, shit gets done. It's hilarious, and if you like stuff about activism and comedy and politics, then Mark Thomas is definitely for you. Then, right, the phone's gone off now. What is a book that made you cry, or if you don't cry, one that really moved you? So I can think of 3 that actually made me physically cry, tears running down my face crying. The one that made me cry the most probably is The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. So this one involves, I'm not going to do like a great synopsis of the book, but it basically involves a childless couple, and a baby comes to them, like just gets washed up in a boat near where they live, and the woman's desperate to keep the baby, and then as she gets older, obviously there's consequences from that decision, and this one just broke me. Like, there's a film, I can't even bring myself to watch the film because it's so sad. This one, yeah, if you have kids especially, this one will break you. The next one, which made me like sob, was When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. This is a memoir. Paul Kalanithi was a neurosurgeon who was like successful in his career. He was, I think, in his 30s, and he got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and he died before he got to finish writing this book, and his wife finished it. And this was so heartbreaking, like so good, but also like like, especially because again he has kids, and I find like when people have kids, it just makes me like tear apart even more reading stuff like this. Yeah, this was wonderful. And then the last one is one probably everyone's heard of, Marley and Me by John Grogan, not Gorgon. So the film, I watched the film about 3 times. Every time I watch the film, I'm like proper like sobbing because I just can't take, sad things and animals. And then I obviously got the book, and similar happened. Not as much as the film, but heartbreak. So they're the books I can think of that made me cry. Next question. What is a book that you didn't even know how you felt about? So this one was quite tricky to answer, because I generally have feelings of I loved that, it was meh, or I didn't like it. The one that I can think springs to mind is an author, not a book, and that is Ali Smith. So Ali Smith is a person who I think is lovely. I've seen her live a few times. She's clearly extremely intelligent. She writes books which are clearly masterful, and she's a very talented writer, but they're just not my cup of tea. And I always feel like everyone's talking about this new Ali Smith book, I should read it, I'm excited about it, and I read it and I'm like, oh, it's just happening. I just can't get on with her books. They're just not for me. So I never know how I feel about them, because I can admire the quality of the writing and her skill, but I just don't love them. And so that's why I'm kind of conflicted, and I'm giving up with her books. Sorry to say, but I just know that I will feel the same about all of them. Question number 9. Are you more likely to read on a sunny day or a cloudy day? Probably sunny, because as soon as it's sunny, I want to like go out in the garden on my sun lounger and read, or I want to sit in the park and read or whatever. So I love reading when it's sunny, definitely. Like, I can remember all of like first lockdown being lovely weather in the garden, kids being in the garden playing, me being sitting at the picnic table or on the sun lounger reading. Lovely times. I do obviously like reading when we can't go out because it's like not very good weather or something. Obviously I do read, but there's other things I do. If I'm indoors, I'm more likely to be doing like some crafts or some housework or some washing or playing with the kids or that kind of stuff. Whereas if it's sunny, I'm like out in the garden read. So I guess sunny is probably the answer there. Question number 10. Do you usually set the mood when you read? Music, lights, smells, etc. So if I'm reading in the evenings and I'm on my own, I will often put on either a read with me video. So my favourite ones are Morgan Long's ones. They are amazing. I really like Joan Campbell's ones as well. And I will put on either one of those or an ASMR room. I found that if you go on YouTube and you search for things like rainy coffee shop or bookshop atmosphere and stuff like that, there's loads of videos which are like sort of like some nice jazz music in the background and some rain and like some cozy lights and all that kind of stuff. So I love putting something like that on, or sometimes just like a real fireplace on there, which they have on Netflix. In terms of, what was the other thing? Music. So if I've got an ASMR on, I won't put music on, but if I've not got the TV on, then often I'll put some music on, but it has to be something quite kind of chill for me when I'm reading, like not, or like classical music, not like something kind of upbeat or dancey or that kind of thing. And lights, I like kind of dim lights, but obviously enough to read, because you don't want to be straining your eyes. I like having my fairy lights on. And one thing I do remember is New Year's last year, I think it was New Year's Eve, it was between Christmas and New Year. I like finished reading Anne of Green Gables by candlelight. That was really magical. Like I just put some candles on the table and then sat on the floor by the coffee table and like finished it in candlelight, and that was really cool. I really liked that. And the last question is, can you leap from book to book, or do you need buffer time between them? This varies. If it's a book that I just want to go, after I finished, and it leaves me kind of bereft, I can't just then literally pick up another book and start reading, because I feel like I need a respectful silence afterwards. Whereas if it's a book where I'm like, enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, but it wasn't like amazing, I'm quite happy to then short time later pick up another book. I can't, like, if I finished a book at like 4 p.m, there's no way I could go to the next day without starting another one. But then I've got a couple of books which I'm reading month by month, like they're nature books that are like month by month, like nature diaries. So like for instance, so like Monty Don, My Garden World, and what's the other one called? Can't remember the other one's name. There's two anyway that I'm doing, and I will read like that month's section of that, for instance, if I don't want to start a whole new book yet, but I need something to read. So yeah, so that's my answers. This went on for longer than I expected, but I just thought this was a really cool tag. So yes, credit to whoever made the tag. I will insert your details. Anyone who wants to do this, I'd love to hear your answers. So I'm not going to tag specific people, but consider yourself tagged if you want to do it. I hope you enjoyed my answers. If you have anything to say about any of my answers, or you just want to say hi, that would be lovely, because I love getting comments. And I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.